Glad to be in church. Come on, welcome. Let's put our hands together like this. Now the darkness fades, sing it. Now the darkness fades into new beginnings as we lift our eyes to hope beyond. Creation waits with an expectation to declare the reign of the Lord our God. Come on. We will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. Silence breaks in the name of Jesus as the heavens cry and the earth responds. All creation shout with a voice of triumph to declare the reign of the Lord our God. Oh, we will not be moved when the earth gives way. Shall reign, and he shall reign forever. Strongholds now surrender, for the Lord our God is overcome. Who can be against us? Jesus our defender, he is Lord and he has overcome. Come on, we sing. He shall reign forever. Strong gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear is an empty grave, for the risen one is overcome. We will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. Come on, church, give him praise today. Yeah, come on. From rising sun, from rising sun to kingdom come. Faithful love is unfailing, and those shadows turn and tempests stir, still you, oh God, are unchanging. Through every hour I will recall my hope is Jesus. Come on, every voice sing it. And great is your faithfulness. how great your faithfulness. When battle's near, when battle's near, I will not fear. Your promises are unshaken, and my faith is sure of nothing more than Christ alone, my portion. Through every hour, I will recall my hope is Jesus. We say, great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness. And I lift my eyes, I won't forget how great your faithfulness. You are faithful, faithful. In every season, come on. In every season, come on. For joy and weeping, in everything our God is faithful. His arms are open, I will come running, now and always our God. Come on, let's declare it, church. There'll be a season for joy and weeping. We know faithful. His arms are open. I will come running, now and always. There'll be a season for joy and weeping, in everything. His arms are open, always our God is faithful. Great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness. I lift my eyes, I won't forget how great your faithfulness. We sing it out. Great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness. I lift my eyes, I won't forget how great your faithfulness. I won't forget, come on, your faith, and I won't forget your faithfulness. Yeah, come on, church. And great is your faithfulness. And great is your faithfulness. And I lift my eyes, I won't forget how great your faithfulness. Come on, sing it again. And great is your faithfulness. Great is your know in every season you are there. We know in every season you are faithful and you are strong. God, so today we put our focus directly on you. Everything else we slide to the side and we put you at the center right now. God, whatever circumstance we're in, you can change. You're all powerful. You're all knowing. So Jesus, now we look to you. We ask that you meet with us now in this place. Meet with us, Jesus. We want your presence here. We love you, Jesus.
Chains fall and fear bow here and now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed, hope found here and now. Jesus, you change everything. Chains will fall and fear must bow, 'cause here and now, Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed and hope found here and now. Jesus, you change everything. Chains fall, fear bow here now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed and hope is found here and now. 'Cause Jesus, you change everything. Oh, you change it all. Oh, you change everything. Cause chains will fall and fear will bow here and now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed, hope is found here and now. Jesus, you change everything. Chains fall, fear bow here now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives are healed and hope is found here and now. 'Cause Jesus, you change everything. Oh, you change it all. When we speak your name, oh, there is no trial, no trouble. Oh, when we speak your name, you were the word at the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. Sing it out. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Oh, nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name silence the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again, and you have no rival, and you have no equal. For now and forever, God, you reign. For yours is the kingdom, and yours is the glory, and yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is! What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is! Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus. And you have no rival, and you have no equal. For now and forever, God, you reign. For yours is the kingdom, and yours is the glory, and yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is! What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is! Oh, nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is! The name of Jesus. Oh, no other name, God. Oh, so powerful. Hey, come on, church. His name is beautiful, wonderful, and powerful. That's Jesus, the God we serve. The name above every name, that the darkness flees. It's so good to be in church with you guys this morning. Why don't you go ahead, look at your neighbor, give him a high five, tell him that you're glad they're here, and have a seat.
Wasn't that fun? Yeah. We're so glad you're at church today. Hey, John 15:13 says, this is the very best way to love, that you would give your life, lay down your life for your friend. And I know in this room today and in our stream online at correctional facilities, there's got to be people in this room that have embodied that in a way like none other, and we call them veterans. And so we want to honor you today. If you're a veteran, would you please just stand where you're at so we can honor you if you served in our military? Come on, church. Thank you. Every person that stood, thank you so much for embodying what love is, an example of what Jesus did, a sacrifice. Thank you so much. We honor you today. Hey, you know, at the end of every year, close to the end of every year, me and my wife sit down and we talk about the things that have happened in that year and the highlights and the lowlights, everything, every season that we went through that year. And we love to do that together. And it's no different in church life. I think it's important to talk and think about all the monumental things that God did throughout the year. And this year has been insane. We've had some incredible things happen. in the life of our church. And I know January's coming, and we're going to keep pushing and seeing all that God has for us and for our church and for our leadership. And I'm so thankful to have incredible leadership here at City Hope. Aren't you? You thankful for that? Hey, would you keep your hands going for our lead pastor and visionary, Pastor Trey Taylor?
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Good. I don't know how often you get to see my beautiful wife, but this is my beautiful wife. Come on. Listen, we've got a couple quick things that we want to say before we move on with the service, and one of those is how excited we are that you partnered with our family in Financial Peace University, because we went through it, we took our family through it, and as of yesterday, we finished the 9 weeks of Financial Peace University as a church, which is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So thank you guys for doing that. And next weekend, just a quick little tease, next weekend we're going to release the big number of how much debt we retired over the 9 or 10 weeks. So you don't want to miss next weekend as we kind of reveal that big number. But Becky and I are here really because we have a big announcement to make. We have a really, really big announcement to make that we're really excited about, that really impacts this campus more than any other campus. And I'm excited because today we're going to announce and we're going to introduce to you your new campus pastor. And I'm excited about this for a couple different reasons. And one, leadership development is a really big deal for me. And you'll learn that over time, that I believe in calling the purpose and potential out of everyone. I believe in raising people up from within our house to ultimately take on staff positions, pastoral positions, and lead our church into the future. And so as we began looking for the new campus pastor for this campus, we began looking internally at our staff and our team, and we have some phenomenal leaders, but the leader that stood above every other leader is the one that you guys are going to get. And I'm excited that you're going to get a ultimate leader, one of the absolute best candidates on our team that's been with us for 12 years, part of our family. And I'm excited that the DNA and the culture is already in this leader's heart. And so we're excited that today we get to introduce to you your new campus pastor. So I want you to help me welcome to the platform Pastor Vanessa Fridge. As I said, Vanessa and her husband John and Abby and Anna, their kids, are right over here on the front row, and they've been a part of our church for 12 years. And Vanessa, 12 years ago, began serving in Kid City. She ended up taking on a part-time position, and as time went on, her leadership grew and grew, and there was no doubt that God had a call on her life, and we began seeing that. And most recently, she actually has been leading centrally, which means across all of our campuses, she's been leading all volunteers. She's been leading 1,800 volunteers across all of our campuses, pastoring them. As a matter of fact, many of you have been pastored by Vanessa for years now, and I'm excited that she gets to step into this role and lead this campus into the future and into this next season. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pray over her, Becky and I, and all of us, our entire church family. Let's stretch our hands forward toward her, and let's just pray and commission her into this next season of ministry and what God's gonna do. Lord, we thank you. God, we stand in agreement right now as a church, and we thank you, God, for what you're doing. God, this is all about you, and it's for you. And God, we are just confirming, God, the calling and the gift that you've put in Vanessa. And God, we just pray that as she steps into this role, God, that you will do something special, something new, a new outpouring of your Spirit. God, that it will be an incredible season of growth for her and her family, but also this campus, God, that we will march into the future, God, with incredible leadership. Lord, we're so grateful and thankful as we send her into this next season. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. Can you guys give her one more big hand? Love you. All right, go get them.
Thank you, guys. You know how to make a girl feel special, so thank you. And I just want to take a moment to honor Pastor Trey and Becky, and I'm really just overwhelmed that I have the honor to lead you guys. So, and I have an incredible family that's supportive, and thank you guys. And for all of you, you are my family too. You have poured in and invested in me and my family. So I just want to thank you for that investment. Well, the first initiative I have is leading this camp, as being your campus pastor, is MCGC. This is something that's near and dear to my family's heart, as we've created many traditions throughout the past 12 years, and we've been a part of this. And let me just encourage you, if you've never taken part in MCGC, you're missing out. So today, I want to challenge you in 2 ways. You can participate by, 1, serving. Whether or not you're on a serve team, it doesn't matter. You're invited and you belong. Number 2 is financially giving. The more the church body gives, the more we can do outside of these walls. So there's no better day than today to go ahead and commit to serving for MCGC. Well, in addition to MCGC, we have something that's extra special that will take place that weekend. And for more information on that, turn your attention to the screen.
When we create the right kind of identity, we can say things to the world around us that they don't actually believe make sense. We can get them to do things that they don't think they can do. So we cannot change the world if we stay at a distance from the problems we're trying to fix. You judge the character of a society, not by how they treat the rich and the powerful and the privileged, but by how they treat the poor, the condemned, the incarcerated. Because it's in that nexus that we actually begin to understand truly profound things about who we are.
What's up, City Hope Church? How's everybody doing? All right. Man, it's so good to have you guys in church with us today. Welcome to part 4 of Citizens, which I'm excited. We're kind of wrapping it up today. But before I get to that, I just want to mention just a couple of things. One of those is all of our locations that are watching right now. Malvis, do me a favor. Help me put our hands together, and let's welcome everybody that's with us right now. Come on. One big family. Also, you guys just saw a video about our special guest on December 2nd, Brian Stevenson. And I don't know if you know who he is or if you are familiar with him, but you need to be. So let me tell you this. You need to go Google, well, not right now, but after service, Google Brian Stevenson. His book, Just Mercy, is phenomenal. He is an incredible human being, and it is a big deal that he's going to be here with us. Truly is a big deal. He actually is has one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time. Actually, he has the longest standing ovation in any TED Talk, which, if you're like me, that is a big deal. That is a huge deal. He's an incredible man of God. He's from our area, or from Montgomery, and just doing incredible things among the poor, the marginalized, the incarcerated, just incredible work. So you definitely need to look forward to that weekend, because we're going to have Merry Christmas Gulf Coast. We're going to pack gifts for all the inmates, all the correctional, our family that's in correctional facilities, and then also Brian's going to be with us that weekend. So it's going to be absolutely unreal. One other quick thing that I want to mention, and then I got some stuff to unpack with you. But one other thing I want to mention real quick is last year in the fall, we had the opportunity. My dad, he had gone to Uganda, and for those of you that maybe knew, my dad's our founding pastor, and last year he travels and he ministers all over the world, ministering to pastors and coaching pastors, and he was in Uganda and he was ministering or working with a pastor there and a group there, and we found out that they had a need. This particular ministry and pastor, they work with refugees in Uganda, and they had 50 15 containers full of food that would feed hundreds of thousands of people. 15 containers were locked up in customs, and they needed a certain amount of money to be able to free those up to get them into the camps. So in one weekend, Dad came back. We presented this need to you as a church, and just as you do, City Hope Church, in your amazing generosity, in one weekend, we raised $90,000 to release 15 containers so that hundreds of thousands of people could eat meals every day that are in chain link fence refugee camps right now. And so that's amazing. And I say all of that, I give you all of that backstory and history because I want you to know that the pastor of that movement, that pastor of that church and ministry is actually with us today. He's hanging out with us today, been with our team all week, and so I want you to help me honor him. So Pastor Solomon, all the way from Uganda, is with us today. So do me a favor and honor him. He is an amazing man of God. The work that they are doing is absolutely unreal, and every time I hear more and more of it, it just blows my mind. And if you ever get a chance to go to Uganda or really any mission trip, you definitely should do it because it will broaden your perspective, broaden your mind to see something that's completely different than what we're accustomed to. So let me jump into Citizens Part 4 and kind of wrap this thing up. And I don't know where you are on this series and where you've been the last couple of weeks. Maybe you've missed one. Maybe you've caught a couple of them, or maybe this is your very first one. But I want to tell you a little bit more about my heart for this series and kind of why I felt like we had to do this series. Because for some, it may feel a little bit like, gosh, this is all the way back to the beginning. We're just kind of starting at the very beginning of this thing. And you're right. That's exactly what this is. It's a reset. It's a reset of our minds to really go back to what is the basis of this whole thing. And sometimes I just kind of think about us as a body, as a church, and I wonder how many of you in every single campus right now, how many of you are just coming and you're just here, and maybe it's out of obligation, maybe it's out of guilt, maybe it's because you grew up in a church and now you've got kids and you just kind of feel like this is what I'm supposed to do and this is what is the normal Southern rhythm of life, is we just kind of go to church and every couple of years we'll find a new church and whatever that, our normal kind of rhythm, but there's not really a connection to Jesus personally. And that's my heart for this series, is I want us as a people, you as an individual, you as a family, you as a single, as a college student, as an engineer, as a barista, in your life, I want you to connect with Jesus in a real and personal way. I don't want it to just be this idea and this set of rules and this thing that I come and I take up a seat. What a terrible life if that's all there is to it, because there's all this talk in the Gospels about fully alive living. And Jesus came to bring us abundant life, but if we never actually experience that, then what good is all of this? The point is for us to know him personally and to live that kind of life. And we kind of talked about in the first week about what that looks like, to live with Jesus, to be in connection with him constantly. We talked about what it takes to change. We spent 2 weekends talking about change and how important that is, because so many of us just think that the moment we get saved and we raise our hand and we say, yes, Jesus, that everything's just going to change. And all of a sudden tomorrow, my thoughts are going to be different. My perspective's going to be different. And it's not. It takes years and years. It takes time. It's not trying real hard. It's training real hard. It's practice. It's something we do day in and day out. And we learn the presence of God. We learn what it means to think like God, to think like Jesus does on this world. Or in this world. And that's kind of where we've been. We've been talking about this idea of just simply following him, which just sounds like such a simple thing. And we throw around this word disciple, that we're a disciple of Jesus. And for us, in our context, we immediately think, whenever we hear the word disciple, we immediately think of 12 guys. That's what we think of. You can't help it. Even if you don't know very much about faith and you're new to faith, you're new to church, you're new to this whole thing, most likely, you at least know when you hear the word disciple, you think of 12 guys. And you may even know their names. You may have learned their names, and that's bonus points, but it really doesn't mean anything, so we'll give you a sticker or something, okay? But our idea of disciple isn't really the true idea of disciple. A better translation of that word would be apprentice. Someone that apprentices underneath a master or someone else, right? It's someone that learns a trade, they learn a craft, they literally sit with a teacher, a master teacher, day in and day out to learn a different life. And that's what being a disciple of Jesus, a follower of Jesus really looks like. And we've kind of compared it to being an apprentice of, say, an electrician. You know, if you apprentice under an electrician, the end goal after maybe a 3 or 4 year program of sitting with and learning and slowly zapping yourself on wires or whatever, slowly over time, 3 or 4 years in, the goal is I'm going to step out and I'm going to be an electrician. I'm going to be able to wire a house, right? Or maybe as a hairstylist or maybe someone, a plumber or whatever trade that is, or maybe you're in the medical field. Right? And after you did 15 years of college, you went into a medical residency program, right? Where you apprenticed and you learned and you groomed and you figured out how to do this thing, right? You didn't do 15 years worth of school to be able to sit on your couch and watch Grey's Anatomy and know what they're talking about. Right? That's not why you did all of that. Right? That's not it, right? You did all of that because you wanted to be a doctor, because you wanted to get that big old fat paycheck. Let's be real. I know you wanted to help people, but let's be honest. You wanted that paycheck, right? I'm kidding, okay? But you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't do all of that to get to the end of this thing and go, boy, I'm sure glad I know all that. Now I'm the smartest guy in the room. No, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do something with it. And this is what being an apprentice of Jesus looks like. I'm learning from him because at the end of this whole thing, I want to be like him. And this is the way I want to say it, and it's not, short and sweet, but I think this really packs it in really, really well of what this apprenticeship to Jesus looks like. Right here. If you are an apprentice of Jesus, your goal over time is to grow and mature into the kind of person who can carry on the work of Jesus. To become the kind of person who can carry on the work of Jesus. This is our job. This is our role. This is who we are. What was it Jesus did? He came and he ushered in the kingdom of heaven. Man, that sounds beautiful and poetic, but it's real. What he did was he brought this kingdom, this unearthly thing, and he brought it to this earthly place. A whole different way of living, a whole different way of thinking, a whole different way of life. And that's why we say, and we're pulling from Philippians 1:27, when Paul says we're to live as citizens of heaven, right? We're residents of earth, but we're citizens of something so much greater, so much bigger, so much more authority and power and all these amazing things. And Jesus was the one that actually brought that to earth. He brought it here, and our role, our job as an apprentice is to carry on the work of what he was doing. He did this for 3 years with his disciples. He took them on the journey of learning and becoming, and he developed them from day one. He developed them into becoming like him. Now you may ask, like, what was it that Jesus did? Like, if this is our goal, this is what it's supposed to look like. We're supposed to end up kind of taking on the work of Jesus and putting it back into this world and doing those same things. What does it look like? So here's what I'm going to do. For all you nerdy people that love lists, I'm going to give you a list, okay? I'm going to show you kind of 10 categories of what Jesus physically did on this planet. For 3 years, this is what he did. Now, I don't want you to get lost in it. Don't geek out on it if you're a list person. And if you're not a list person, don't go numb, okay? Just hang with me for a second, okay? This is a list of what Jesus did on this earth. He came to preach the gospel. He was teaching the way. He was healing the sick. He was casting out demons. He was eating and drinking with people who were far from God. He was doing justice, right? The poor, the widow, the orphan. He was peacemaking. He was praying. He was prophesying, and he was standing against religious and political corruption. These are the things Jesus did. So as an apprentice, guess what we're to do? Ta-da! Right? How's that coming? How's everybody doing with that list? We got it? We're good? Right? Some of you list people right now, you've written it down and you're already scheduling tomorrow when I'm going to knock these things off. Like 9 a.m., heal the sick, done. Right? 10 a.m., I'm going to cast the demon out of my 2-year-old, done. Right? Like, I got this. By noon, it is on. Okay, you missed the point. Okay, that's not the point whatsoever. Because it's a process of us becoming more and more like Jesus. It doesn't happen overnight, but here's some really, really good news that I want to tell you. Maybe the best news of the day. Because you look at this list, you get a little overwhelmed. Here's what I want you to understand is that you may think, you see this list and you're like, yeah, but Trey, he was Jesus and I'm not. And the person next to you said, we know, right? Right? But here's the amazing thing about Jesus. When Jesus came to this planet as a little bitty baby, flesh and blood. He was 100% human. 100% human. He laid down all the things that you think would have taken to do all of this. He laid all that down to become human. And the Bible says that the same Holy Spirit that empowers you and I is what empowered him to do every single bit of this. It was the Holy Spirit that empowered him to do it. Look at Acts 10:38. It says this. It says, and you know that God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. And then look at this powerful word right here. Then, Jesus went around doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. He was 100% human, empowered by the Holy Spirit to live a different kind of life. This is huge for us. This is so important because listen, for Jesus to come and give us a new pattern for living, for Jesus to come and show us a new way to be human, he had to be human in order to do that. He could not come and be all God, walking on this planet, doing amazing stuff, and then say to us, hey, go and live this way. No, he had to model what it is he's expecting us to do. It's exactly what he did. That's good news. That means we can actually learn to live this kind of life and be this kind of Christ follower. Now, to go back to you list people that are geeking out a little bit on the list, here's what I want you to see in that list. We'll throw it, here it is. Most of this has a common theme. And this is what I want us to focus on. When it comes to our discipleship, when it comes to us growing and apprenticing and becoming like Jesus, I want us to see and understand the common theme of the work that Jesus was actually doing on this planet. Because this is what we need to catch. This is what we walk away with today. And I'm going to illustrate it to you this way through the story of Matthew. You know, in the first week, I kind of talked a little bit about the way Jesus would call his disciples, and it was just bananas. He would just, literally, whatever they were doing, they were fishermen, they were in their profession, and Jesus would say, hey, come follow me, and they'd say, all right, yep, done. And it's bonkers. It's like, why would you drop your fishing pole or your net or your boat or whatever? Why would you drop that and immediately follow this rabbi, this guy? Like, why in the world would you immediately do that? And this is exactly what happened with Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector. Now, to really understand what a tax collector was in the first century, you have to kind of get into the context a little bit, because so often we'll just kind of say a tax collector was an IRS agent. It's not, okay? It's not the same thing. Don't do that to them. They're people, okay? It's a completely different thing. A tax collector in the first century was a traitor to their own people, because they not only took taxes for Rome, they were Jews, taxing their own people for Rome. Not only that, but they were notorious for literally doubling the tax in some cases, doubling it and lining their own pockets. Up to 70% of income was going to taxes, Rome and the tax collectors. So these guys are dirty, okay? They are lining their pockets with gold. They've got a fat house up on a hill somewhere. They're throwing crazy parties. Like, these guys are just absolutely living this crazy lifestyle. All of it through oppressing their brothers and sisters, their Jewish brothers and sisters, okay? They were the scum. Nobody wanted to be around them. Nobody wanted anything to do with them, and they were okay with that because they had their fat mansion, okay? So picture this guy, Matthew, sitting at a little booth, and he's literally haggling people. He's literally talking to everyone that walks by about the taxes that are owed, and he's got 2 Roman guards standing there with him, giving him the authority to do this. This is his life. This is what it was. It's literally taking good people, good, honest, hardworking people, and just stripping them of everything that they got. And Jesus just walks up to him out of the blue. Just think about it. Jesus just walks up to him out of the blue and says, come follow me. That's all he said. Look, you can read it in Matthew 9. That's all he said, come follow me. And Matthew did immediately. He dropped what he was doing and he began to follow him. Jesus went after a tax collector, which blew the minds of the first century Pharisees, the religious leaders. It blew their minds. Look at what happens in the very next verse. Matthew 9, Jesus says, come follow me. The very next verse is this, in verse 10 and 12 in Matthew 9. It says, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, so immediately, come follow me. Yes, now they go to dinner at Matthew's house. Immediately, next verse. Many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with them and his disciples. So all of Matthew's friends, everybody he normally parties with, he's hanging out with, he's like, hey, guys, come on, let's hang out with this guy. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Like, what's the deal? We don't normally associate with those people. As a matter of fact, it was against the rules. It was against the law. It made them unclean before God, is what they thought. On hearing this, Jesus said, "It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." This one line from Jesus sums up why he came to earth. We also could read that he came to seek and save the lost. The reason he's here and everything that he did, most everything that Jesus came to this planet to do was about outsiders. It was about people that were not already healthy, as he said, but they were sick. They were hopeless. They were lost. And Jesus said, man, the reason I'm here, the reason I'm walking on this planet right now, the reason I came was to bring all of them to me. And what Jesus did is he crossed lines. He didn't draw lines, he crossed lines. He went to places that religious leaders would not go. He went into situations that most people would have never gone into. He walked up to a Matthew and he said, "Come follow me." This is what Jesus did. He crossed lines. Let me say it this way. The gospel would look completely different if Jesus had drawn lines that separated him from everyone that wasn't like him. Think about it. If Jesus lived like the religious leaders of the day, then we would not have the gospel account in any shape or form, because Jesus would have never interacted with anyone, because no one was like him. No one. He was coming to bring something completely new. He was coming to bridge a gap, to erase a line, to make it possible for people that were far from him to actually come to him. As a Christ follower, as we grow and develop, guys, this is our role on this planet, is to usher in the kingdom of God so that people can see that there's something greater, something bigger out there, and we actually have access to it. This is what Jesus did. He brought this to the planet, to this earth. This is what he did. He didn't draw lines. He erased lines. He crossed lines. He blew them apart. The people that drew lines were the Pharisees, constantly and repeatedly. A great example of this, and I may get an email for this one, and that's fine. We love emails. Just send it to daleryles@cityhope.cc. He has lots of time to read emails. But I may get in a little bit of trouble on this one, but something recently just happened about a week and a half ago that a lot of times, a lot of religious people, I'm going to get emails, whatever, let's just go for it. A lot of religious people have problems with, and that's Halloween, right? That we want to draw lines, that it's Halloween. So if I think about this through a New Testament perspective, I think about it like an event like Halloween, and I wonder who would be drawing lines. It would be the Pharisees. They would create a gap of distance. They would draw a line, and they would separate themselves from something like that. But then when I think about Jesus, who sat with Matthew and tax collectors and sinners at a table, I wonder where Jesus would be on Halloween. Where would he be? He would be in the neighborhood with his neighbors, right? That's where Jesus would be. He would be out in public walking and talking and building relationships. He would cross lines that normally separate, and he would go into the lost. He would go into those worlds and actually bridge a gap, and he would actually get to know some neighbors. He would actually get to know some families down the street. He'd actually begin to build relationships with people. Why? Because that's why he was on this planet. It wasn't to isolate himself and to create a ravine. Oh, goodness gracious, it's not a holy day. No day is a holy day until we get involved, right? Every day, there is no such thing as a holy day unless Jesus or we are involved. We bring him into the day, right? And this is what Jesus did. He crossed lines for the lost, for people that were far away from him, that did not know him. He sat at tables with people that did not know him. And I just wonder, how often do we do that? There's this phenomenal book called The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosaria Butterfield. And she says this in the book. She says, Jesus dined with sinners, but he didn't sin with sinners. Jesus lived in the world, but he didn't live like the world. This is the Jesus paradox. The purpose in crossing lines is to be light in dark places. Right? Matthew 5 says this. Jesus says this in Matthew 5. You are a light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. A lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. What good is light if it stays in the light? It's pretty, but it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. It's pretty and it looks good and it fills a seat on Sunday morning, but it's not doing anything, right? What good is light if it's not placed in a dark place so that it can illuminate the house so that people can actually see where they're going or where they should be going? And this is who we're called to be. This is what we're called to be about, to cross lines. And I wonder how often as believers do we draw lines and we separate ourselves from the hurting and the lost, the people that Jesus himself came to this earth, flesh and blood, walking on this planet to interact with. It's what he did. And in our process of apprenticing underneath Jesus, if you miss that, then you miss everything. It's not about the knowledge of knowing the Bible. It's about knowing Jesus and doing his work on this earth. Continuing his work on this earth, picking up where he left off and going, yes, I'm going to join in with what you're doing on this planet and I'm going to do it too. This is what we're all about. We're all about crossing lines and being with people that are far from God. Every single one of us, not just me. You know, we say this, and this has become part of our heart and our vision, and it's just more and more shaping our church, but we're a church that's going to boldly reach the lost. And you know what that means? That doesn't mean that we're the kind of church that Trey Taylor is going to boldly reach the lost. That's not what that means. That means we are a church that is going to boldly reach the lost, you and me, and not just from this platform. I should not have to preach another message about salvation if we were doing what God called us to do. I shouldn't have to preach the message. I'm going to preach the message, you know what I'm saying? But I shouldn't have to preach the message. It's going to be on like Donkey Kong as often as I possibly can. But you guys out in the world, crossing lines, ministering to people, that's who we're called to be. Like Jesus, light in a dark world. We can't draw lines and separate and isolate and back up. Oh, I just want to be around people that are like me. You know what Jesus' nickname was? From Pharisees and religious leaders, he was called a friend of sinners. And that was meant as a derogatory name, as a mean, harsh name. I welcome that name. Lord, may that be my nickname on this planet, that I cross lines and I'm a friend of sinners. People that are hurting and hopeless and far from God, that I will cross those lines and I will be that kind of person. I've made this statement before and I'll say it again, that Jesus came for everyone, and I wonder how often our everyone is very limited to the everyones that look like you and sound like you and have the same political view as you and maybe even root for the same football team as you and probably have the same skin color as you and probably like the same kind of food and probably work at the same place, because our everyone gets so narrow, and we hear something like Jesus loves everyone and wants to save everyone, and all you think are the 3 white dudes that you work with on a daily basis. You don't think about the neighbor next door. You don't think about the person down the street. You don't think about the barista. You don't think about every human being is a person that Jesus Christ went to a cross for. We don't think about that. How wide and expansive is your everyone? That you realize that every single time you lock eyes with another human being, Jesus Christ died for that person. No matter what kind of lifestyle they're living, whether they're a homosexual, it doesn't matter. Right? Jesus died for them. It doesn't, whatever category you've got that you think, oh, that's the worst of the worst. I couldn't dare deal with that or handle that, whatever that is. Cross a line and love someone like Jesus would love someone. That's what we're called to do. I've been trying throughout this series to give you some easy next steps, like some practical things. We've talked about spending time with God. We've talked about change and how to change and what that looks like. And I want to give you just a couple really simple things about what this looks like. Because, listen, this whole idea of reaching the lost or stepping across a line, it isn't when you get to the end of the thing. Because all through the journey of Jesus apprenticing with his disciples, he was literally giving them little bits to do along the way, stretching them and beginning to open their perspective. And that's what I want to do for you. I want you to begin having some baby steps of how you could do this. So I want to give you 2 fairly simple takeaways that I think you can handle. And the first one is this. Simply start with the basics. Start with what you have, in other words. Start with the absolute basics, because this is incredible to me that Jesus, for 3 years in ministry, What you see him do as a strategy for reaching the lost more than any other thing was he ate and he drank with people far from God. It's kind of crazy. When you look at it, he came to seek and save the lost. What was his strategy? By eating and drinking with people. Like, it's crazy. I've said this before, but he was almost always, either going to a meal, at a meal, or leaving a meal. Mug loved to eat, you know what I'm saying? But he was always with people that did not know him. He was always with sinners and tax collectors. He was always at someone else's table because he didn't have a house. He was always showing up at their house. But most of us have a home that we can invite people into. We can sit around a table and we can just begin to do life with people that are far from God. They're not going to get saved on day one. You're not going to preach them a sermon. God, please don't preach them a sermon. Just live the lifestyle in front of them. Be a friend. Be there for them when their cat dies. Be there for them when they need to go to the hospital for something. Just be in their life and a part of their life. And I'm talking about the neighbor next door, the guy you work with, the soccer family at the field. Like, invite them to your home and bring them into your life. Quit drawing a line and separating them. Well, they don't live like me, so I guess I can't hang out with them. No. You need to hang out with them, but you need to be light in a dark place. You need to bring that into their life and into their story and into who they are. Listen, we have 21 meals a week. I should have done the math. I think that's right. Is that right? Yeah. 21 meals a week, 64-ish a month. I mean, seriously, how many of those meals could we just open up our home for and just invite someone in? Another family, someone else that we just, that was Jesus' strategy. How are we going to reach our community? One meal at a time. It's as simple as that. We've got a table. We did a series 2 years ago called Reclaim the Table. Go watch that series. The whole thing was about how important the table was, that Jesus spent so much time there inviting people to his table. It could be that simple. It could start right there. You inviting people that are far from God into your home, into your sphere, into your life. This is exactly what Matthew's story was. It's pretty cool because the moment Jesus said, "Come follow me," what was that next line that we read? Matthew invited people to his home. Matthew did not have a theology degree. He didn't even have one day with Jesus under his belt. All he had was the experience of grace, sitting at a tax collector's booth. All he had was the feeling of acceptance and love. And immediately he said, who else can I share this with? Who else can I invite into my home? My guess is Matthew knew how to throw a party. And he threw a party. He did what he knows how to do. He's like, I can throw a party. Let's throw a party. One translation says he threw a banquet with Jesus. He invited everyone he's got, and he's like, I know how to do this. Get the wings, get the chips, get the music, get the DJ. Like, we know how to do this thing. Let's have a party. Let's invite people around my table. And this is all, no degree necessary. No 35 years under your belt of living with Jesus necessary. Day number one, Matthew said, I can't just contain this. Like, there's other hurting people in this world. I can't just hold on to this. Who else can I give this to? Step one, start with the basics. Start with what you have. Just have people over for a meal. Oh, but I don't cook real good. That's all right. I don't either. Come up with one meal, man. Just one meal that's like your go-to that you can handle. And if you can't handle that, do cereal night. Because cereal is always better at night. What's up with that, right? And like hashtag it, make it a thing. People, you'll start a trend. And it'll just all of a sudden be a trend, cereal night, boom, I got this, right? Whatever you got to do, but get people in your home around a table so that you can share the love of Jesus with them. Not in some weird preachy way, but just be in their life and a part of their life. The second thing is this: simply live in the moment. And this is what I mean by that. We so often live in the future or live in the past. We're busy. We're so busy that we're worried about what's next and next on the agenda, next on the timeline. And we got an appointment over here and we got kids soccer, that we're living so frazzled, or maybe we're living in the past and we're stuck on something that's happened or worried about something or whatever it is. Instead of actually living in the moment, and listen to this, listening to God's voice and then joining in with what God's already doing. Because God's already at work everywhere you go. He's dealing with hearts everywhere you go. And if you could only hear his voice and live in the moment and join in with what he's doing in the moment. There's this parable in Matthew 13 where the parable's all about a farmer, a sower, and he's throwing seed. And the parable is actually about the type of soil, and it's likened to the type of listener. So when the farmer throws seed or grace or love or the message of Jesus Christ, and there are 4 different kinds of hearers. right? That's what the whole thing is about, is how they hear. We often focus on the four hearers. What we don't focus on is the guy throwing the seed, you and I. We don't focus on him, because here's the thing. This guy didn't run around trying to find the one type of soil that was prepared and ready. That mug just threw seed. That's all he did. Boom, 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 boom. That's all he did all day long. He wasn't looking for that one spot. All right, that's all I'm going to do. That's the healthy soil. I'm going to avoid every other soil. I'm going to hit this one. Everywhere he went, he was throwing seed of grace and goodness. What if that was us? Every environment we walked into, we're just throwing seeds of grace everywhere we go. I love this quote from Dallas Willard, and I know I've quoted him quite a bit in this series, but he said this is amazing. He said, the true saint burns grace like a 747 burns fuel on takeoff. Everywhere we go, man, we're throwing grace. We're slinging grace, man. Everywhere we go, it's all about giving people grace and hope and love. Everywhere we go, it just oozes out of us. We should burn through grace like a 747 burns fuel on takeoff. Does that sum up our life? That we're constantly giving, we're constantly kind. It's amazing. My wife, Becky, she has this thing where she literally will give anything away. It blows my mind. It frustrates me, but it blows my mind. That she'll walk out of a store and she'll be like, I gave my necklace away. I just bought that thing for you. Like, what? She's like, I don't know. She looked like she was having a bad day. I felt like God told me to. I just gave her my necklace. And I'm like, I can't really argue with that. All right, cool. All right. So, but it's like constantly listening and knowing and just giving and being kind and gracious and living in the moment. If you live in tomorrow's moment or in the meeting later today, you're going to miss the moment that God wants you to see right now. Live in the moment. Listen to God's voice and just spread seeds of grace everywhere you go. Here's where I want to wrap this thing up. I believe, as crazy as this cultural moment is that we're living in, busyness and anxiety and all the things that are happening, we can make the time to bring people to a table, to cross the line and bring people to a table. We can take time to live in the moment, to wake up every day and say, God, help me to live in this moment. Help me to hear your voice. Lead me and guide me to love people that are far from you. Right? Because this is what it looks like to be a citizen of heaven. This is the verse that I'm going to come back to it one more time, Philippians 1:27. Above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ, that you are a resident of earth, but you're a citizen of heaven. And if you're a citizen of heaven, that makes this place, this church, a colony of heaven, an outpost of heaven. Right? A safe place. And in the Passion Translation, I love it. The same verse, it says this: whatever happens, keep living your lives based on the reality of the gospel of Christ. Don't live your life because now you're a citizen of heaven. Now you're connected to something greater. Don't live your life based on this reality that's in front of you. Live your life based on a reality that's completely different. It's based on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Live your life based at another plane, another reality, another realm. And then when you do that, look what happens, which reveals Jesus to others. When you live as a citizen of heaven and you live connected to the gospel of Jesus Christ, it will reveal Jesus Christ to others. And it will demand an explanation from people. They will ask you, what in the world is up with your life? Why do you have peace in this crazy time? Why are you not freaking out? Why? Because I'm connected to a completely different reality. And then, one last Dallas Willard quote, and I'm done. I'm wrapping this thing up. One more, and it's long. Hang with me. But it's just beautiful, and I have to say it. I have to read this quote. This is what he said. He said, if those in the churches really are enjoying fullness of life, evangelism will be unstoppable and largely automatic. If we in the churches are truly experiencing fully alive living, that evangelism will be unstoppable and automatic. The local church can then become an academy where people throng from the surrounding community to learn how to live. To learn how to live, which is what we're doing right now. We're learning how to live. And eventually when we live this way, the community will go, what in the world is up? And they will come to this place and they will become a student. It will be a school of life, for a disciple is but a student, where all aspects of that life seen in the New Testament records are practiced and mastered under those who have themselves mastered them through practice. In other words, when we live this way, people will flock here to learn how to live a new way to live, a new existence. And then as disciples, as apprentices, as followers of Jesus Christ, we will then begin teaching someone else how to live. We'll begin discipling someone, walking them through process, walking them through this whole thing and helping them understand what it means to be with Jesus and become like Jesus and do his work in the world, like to help them understand what that looks like. Then we become that to someone else. What a beautiful picture that is for the church. And maybe it's crazy, maybe it's unrealistic, maybe it's idealistic, maybe it's just bananas and it's out there, but I just kind of believe that God is in the business of crazy. I believe that God is in the business of just bananas, bonkers, wild, out of your mind, unfathomable kind of stuff, and this is not unreachable. For us to be the kind of church, for us to be the kind of people that live this way in our world. Citizens of heaven, connected to something so much bigger, bringing heaven to earth. Bringing heaven to Mobile and Baldwin County, to South Alabama, to San Pedro Sula, Honduras, to every correctional facility we're in, to bring heaven into those places. That's who we are. And every one of us right now, no matter where you are on this journey, you have a next step. As an apprentice of Jesus Christ, you've got a next step, and I don't know what it is. You are the only one that can decide what it is. So are you even asking that question right now? Or are you okay just checking the box that I did church today? Okay, obligation done. I can check the guilt box. I can check the whatever box. Or are you ready to say, okay, Jesus, I want to take that next step? Last weekend we talked about community. Maybe the next step for you is just getting in a community that can shape and grow you. Maybe it's about becoming a part of a team that's giving back and doing something bigger. Maybe it's just beginning every morning with God, taking 10 or 15 minutes and sitting in his presence. I don't know what your next step is, but every one of us, no matter how long you've been in this thing, you've got a next step. There's something else God wants to tell you because none of us have gotten to the end and become Jesus. This is a lifelong apprenticeship. We learn every day of our life for the rest of our life. We're growing and becoming like him. If you will, bow your head and close your eyes for a minute, because I believe as we wrap up that there are people here that maybe feel a little bit like Matthew, an outcast, doing your thing in a hopeless spot. There's no way out. And Jesus right now is looking at you and he's saying, hey, come follow me. And I want to give you that opportunity that when you think it's hopeless, Jesus is here and he's saying, come follow me and let me show you a way out. Let me show you a new way to live. And if that's you today, I want you just to simply raise your hand real quick. Just slip your hand up. I'm not going to delay this long. If that's you, go ahead and raise your hand. I see several hands here. I know there are hands at the campuses right now. Listen, we're going to pray this prayer. I see 10 hands right now. Praise God. There are 10, 12 hands right now. We're going to pray this prayer together, and then I'm going to get out of here. But I want you to believe this with all of your heart. Let's pray this. Jesus, I give you my life. I want to follow you. I want to live this new life. I give you all that I am. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Can we thank God? That was absolutely amazing.